Please welcome Program Committee Chair Jacqui Hoover to the stage.
Aloha, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed lunch and are prepared for a great afternoon session. We're so pleased today to be able to have the Honorable Governor Josh Green join us. As many of you know, he tried to introduce a lot of really progressive and innovative things during this legislative session. He'll be able to give us some comments today, and we're so pleased because he's also agreed to stay and join the next panel. So rather than just a few words from him, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions and have him respond. So at this time, if we could please welcome our Honorable Governor Josh Green.
Thank you for welcoming me. I so appreciate it, and I hope it can be informal. I'm honored to be able to also be on the panel just so we can riff about where we are as a state. So many things have happened in just a short time. I'm grateful to get input and to really think through what we all value. So let me start by saying this. I had the greatest honor of being selected to become governor not that long ago, about 17 months ago. And when that happened, we anticipated working on housing and homelessness, new opportunities in the economy, maybe work on some healthcare issues. These were the issues that people were talking about affordability. And that's how we started. Right off the bat, I did what all governors do. I got into a war with the Senate. They cut the head off of a few of my nominees, and we did, the dance, and it was just fine. That's what happens, that's the dynamic in democracy, which is actually healthy. And then we woke up on the fateful day of August 8th, and there was wind, and then there was fire, and then there was heartache, and everything changed for so many of us. In fact, I would argue something changed for all of us. It, of course, impacted the beautiful people that live in Lahaina. And then close to Lahaina, all the towns that were around that were affected as people were forced to move. 13,000 people in the course of just a couple hours lost everything they have. And about 5,000 individuals were able to somehow find a place to be with a relative, a dear friend, maybe even someone on one of our other islands, leaving 8,000 people in the moment to need everything, to need a roof over their head, or we would have suddenly had 8,000 individuals who were homeless. We already struggle with that challenge, and can you imagine what that would do to our community here? Somewhat miraculously, people stepped up and put aside all differences, and we did what we could do. We got basically 8,000 individuals homes, or at least temporary shelter at hotels in 2 weeks, which was an incredible feat, but it was not without challenge and pain and struggle and necessary conflict with extraordinary and thoughtful people. For instance, Lahaina Strong, I think maybe a couple people are here today, saying, what can we do if people have to stay in the hotels, our own people, yet there are other people coming here, we don't have houses. And that began to show us more clearly than ever how deeply challenging our housing issues are. Now, I knew it implicitly that it was an issue for many, mostly local people. And people have been leaving, going to great places where you can play the slots a lot. But that's not Hawaii, and that's not what we want. But when we saw what happened with the fire, and we really kind of dug in and went deep, as the 8,000 people were living in hotels, we saw that there just was nowhere for people to go, almost nowhere. The number of houses that we had was infinitely smaller than we thought. It was already challenging, and now 4,000 structures were burned. 3,071 households were in hotels. 7,796 people were forced to live in hotels until we could find a way to get through. And then we realized we should have done some of these changes decades ago. But the urgency wasn't there, and I explained that to PBS today, doing a big hour-long story about what the year has been like here, the terrible moments and the beautiful moments where people have saved each other and cared for each other also. And they asked about that, and I told them that this has forced us to really reconsider who we are. So being a governor in a first year, with a great team and people who are thoughtful and share ideas, that became evident that we had to immediately change how we do things. Now, we have other issues in addition to the challenge, because we are rebuilding and we're finding a way together. And even as tragic as the fire was, you can see some things have changed already. We're already changing how we address housing. We are making changes at light speed for Hawaii standards, okay? We're going faster than we've ever gone before, and we're still trying to correct the other challenges. And I'll mention a couple, and then I'll talk about energy. One problem was we just don't have enough resource for survival here in the state. Many people, the number's big. It's 44% of all families are considered asset limited, meaning they live within 2 to 4 weeks of being in a desperate strait if they lose their job. So 44% would conceivably have to leave the islands if they suddenly had a terrible moment or lost their employment. And that number is 63% for the Hawaiian community. So it's an existential problem for society, for those who are Hawaiian, like my wife and her relatives who live in Hilo. It's that bad and that tough. So we have to change that. And so one big thing did happen, one huge thing. And I don't know if people are very aware of it yet, because I haven't even signed the bill yet. I'm going to sign the bill around June 1st. We've taken the step to lower taxes very, very dramatically for working families. The definition in general is anyone who's making $88,000 or less, who's basically working month to month to pay their rent and survive here. We're going from, right now, we are the second highest taxed state in the country. And over the course of 7 years, we will go to the 4th lowest tax state in the country. And what it's meant to do is it's meant to flip the equation so that if you're working here in Hawaii and you want to raise your kids here, you can actually do it, and you can have $4,000 or $5,000 extra per year in that space, so you can actually afford a rental, so you can actually afford to survive. That, coupled with a very large effort to move the basically 89,000 short-term rentals away from mainland ownership into a place where our local families can buy or rent them for years instead of this short-term rental situation, which is impossible. Changing housing and building, you will see me push building, and I'm only a little apologetic about pushing hard on that, but pushing housing back to people and putting a lot of money back into families that are at or near poverty levels will make a big difference. Will it make a big enough difference? I don't know yet. Ask me again in 3 months and a year and 3 years, and I will tell you exactly where we are as a society. But that's a big fundamental change. And then there's this question of how can we survive going forward on the planet that we live in, which is, in my opinion, a planet deeply affected by climate change. It's much drier in most of our communities. The winds are stronger, the storms are stronger. It's what we experienced tragically in Lahaina. It's what we also experienced in Waikoloa. I've seen it in Ka'u. It's upon us. So what do we do? How can we do our part to become more resilient and safe? And that's, in many ways, the billion-dollar question that I'm asking my team to work on and I'm working on. Now, you'll see, as we start fire season, some important changes. We've added a ton of technology to make sure we don't have another tragedy. We have sensors, we have advanced weather stations, we have more investment in firefighters. But how do we get to a place where we can actually afford this for many moons to come? And so you'll hear me talk about this, and it's as controversial as heck, but having some form of a climate impact fee or a fund that allows us to constantly deal with the impacts of climate change, to enhance the brave work that the firefighters and police do, to make sure that we can create fire breaks like we're doing right now, year over year, will make us safer. There's 1 or 2 options on this front that you'll see me push out. One is just having travelers pay some money, which we do. We do already. And that, bringing that money in, making us more resilient, investing in going forward crises is smart for us. And we're going to need money to insure ourselves because it's going to be difficult and expensive to even get insurance for all that we want to do. So that's one big way. The other is, without any new taxes or fees or anything of the sort, take that rainy day fund that we've got. It's $1.5 billion. Just take the juice that comes from that. the growth. It's about $50 million, and use that in perpetuity investment. There's a word called securitization where you're allowed to invest it and get bonds and do good things. That's another road. So you'll hear these things, but they will help solve our problem as far as getting ready for the future. So that's a big thing, and then we turn to energy. What are we going to do to get to this extraordinary goal we have for 2045? Or even what some people are sharing, and I don't want to really steal Colin's highlight or his talking point, but there are some people like Colin who are very thoughtful, and they're talking about this idea of getting to 60% renewables sooner, like say 2030, bringing down prices. And how do you do that? Well, the good news is we can actually do it. And we've shown that we can do it, for instance, on Kauai. The bad news is we are going to have to take some leap of faith if we want to actually get there. And this I put out there for debate to this conference. Now, you know that I'm not afraid to mix it up. And I will take actions if I think they're going to help people. And I understand that some people are going to get upset. That's okay. It's my responsibility as governor to absorb that and to feel that. But I have to say, we are hard-pressed right now to get to our goals if, number one, we allow HECO to collapse under the pressure of the moment. I'm not trying to say something good or bad. There are good people everywhere that are all engaged in this attempt at survival. But if some powerhouse from the mainland suddenly swooped in and took out our current energy partner, I can guarantee you they will not have Hawaii's best interests at heart. I just don't believe someone will come in, scoop up billions and billions of dollars of opportunity and really be thinking about some great family that lived on Front Street or in Kula or in Hawaii. I just don't buy it. So I'm very thoughtful about that, and I'm also thinking about what we have to do to get to the next step. And what my commitment is to you is to be a thoughtful, analytical person. So I'm going to propose different ideas, different paths with experts, and I hope and expect you'll give those ideas to me, because I think that there has to be some form of bridge between now and 2045 if we truly want to lead on renewable energy. And I know previous administrations have shied away from any kind of deviation from what is a great plan, but slow, which is fully renewable all the time, move immediately away from fossil fuels. And I don't think we have the luxury in the moment to take any options off the table. So I want you to give me input about that bridge. And that bridge can be anything except for probably any consideration of nuclear, which is not even in our which is constitutionally not allowed. Okay, I'm just being direct about that. What I'm saying is, if we have a plan that somehow decreases our carbon consumption, our carbon footprint, decreases our emissions, but increases whether it's LNG or geothermal, and gets us to a future where we can use hydrogen sources that are clean, like green hydrogen. If we can get to a future with a different bridge that decreases our reliance on classic fuel, oil, diesel, but gets us there in a healthier way, I think we have to look at it. And I assume that the 400 thought leaders in this room want to do what's best in the moment. And when I define what's best, it is a move that is sensible as far as our carbon emissions, but also is open-minded about what ultimately will get there, because I don't want to see things become more expensive for local people. I don't want to see any more of our people leave the state as we come to this beautiful future, which will definitely be driven by full renewable energy. So that's what I wanted to share today. I wanted to share with you that in spite of juggling a few extra balls, we are taking on these other questions all across the state, whether it's the tax picture, the housing challenge, the homeless issues with the Kauhalis that we're building, or this energy question. And I want to be a governor that's accessible to you. If you have the idea that solves our problems, I look forward to taking credit for it. No, you will be given credit for the idea, and you will help us really improve the lot of life for our people. So know how much I care about you and your ideas, and thank you for welcoming me today. Aloha.